Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Palm Springs Unified School District regular meeting of the Board of Education. Today is Tuesday, March 26, 2024. I will now call the meeting to order. Can I get a roll call?
Board Member Espericueta?
Here.
Board Member Irvin?
Here.
Board Clerk Cornett? And Board President Jarrell?
Here. All right, we'll proceed to our Pledge of Allegiance, 6B. Could you all stand, please, and it'll be led by our Clerk, Karen Cornett.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. No, not tonight. Thank you. We'll go on to our mission statement read by our board member, Sergio Espericueta.
Okay, thank you. All members at Palm Springs Unified School District are united in our commitment to equity. We create deep, meaningful learning opportunities, build professionalism, and engage parents and community to ensure success for all students. All students graduate with the skills, capacity, and confidence needed to succeed in a rapidly changing world. Todos los miembros del Distrito Escolar Unificado de Palm Springs están unidos en nuestro compromiso con la equidad. Creamos oportunidades de aprendizaje profundas y significativas, creamos profesionalismo e involucramos a los padres y a la comunidad para garantizar el éxito de todos los estudiantes. Todos los estudiantes se gradúan con las habilidades, capacidades y confianza necesaria para tener éxito en un mundo en cambio rápido. Gracias.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Erica Barragan will read our land acknowledgement.
The Palm Springs Unified School District acknowledges the Cahuilla as the original stewards of the land on which the Palm Springs Unified School District facilities now sit. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work with the indigenous people in this place. We pay our respect to the Cahuilla people, past, present, and the emerging, who have been here since time immemorial.
Thank you. Next, number 7, we'll look at a report of closed session actions. Clerk Cornett, are there any closed session actions to report?
There are no closed session items to report.
Thank you. If we go on to 8, we look at the approval of our agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Move for approval.
Second,
Are there any questions? All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Next, number 9, we'll have a presentation, and we'll ask Mr. Jeff Simmons to start off the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. We have Dale Scott here from Dale Scott and Associates. He's going to be kind of addressing a couple different issues. One is the potential of going out for a bond in 2024 with the 2024 general elections. And the other is what's been going on with the property taxes in Palm Springs as compared to the estimates that we've been given. So here's Dale Scott.
Thank you. Good evening. I am going to talk about the setting of tax rates. You thought bonds were boring. Wait till you get into tax rates. But I will try to keep it short and to the point regarding your tax rates. Just to give you a context, when we put a bond on the ballot, as you've done in the past, one thing that has to happen is we have to give the voters a tax rate estimate. And so they know a sense of what they're going to pay. That's not a binding number, it's an estimate, so they give a sense, but then once those bonds are sold, the information regarding the principal and the interest and the payments that they have to make, that goes to the county assessor and tax collector, and they set the actual rates. So there's this dichotomy between the estimated rates, which is before the election, and the actual rates after the election, the actual rates being whatever amount property owners have to pay to repay the bonds. You can see in the presentation there are three major factors that affect the setting of those tax rates. The first is the growth in the district's assessed valuation. That's the value, the taxable value of all the property, industrial, commercial, residential, et cetera, et cetera. The amount of outstanding debt, how much principal has to be repaid, and then the county's own rate setting methodology. Those are the three pieces that go into that tax rate setting. So let's start with the assessed valuation. When we do, as I said earlier, the tax rate estimate, we make an estimate on that assessed valuation growth, because assessed valuation is going to be growing over the next 20 or 30 years. But if we compare that growth to the actual growth, especially in this district, we try to be conservative in that number. So what this chart shows you is the assessed valuation growth for your district for the past 20 years or so. You can see if you look down at the right-hand corner, the 20-year average has been 5.6%. The actual number that we have been using consistently as we set these estimates is more like 3.5%. So right off the bat, we're starting at a much lower rate of growth than has actually happened. And then you can see in the last 2 years, 2023, 2024, assessed valuation growth has actually been over 20% in this district, even though we've been assuming it's going to be 3.5% or so per year. The impact on that over time is pretty enormous. If we compare from taking it from 2016 to today, what that growth would have been using that 3.5% growth rate, the growth would be up to about $30 billion. But in fact, because your assessed valuation has grown so much faster, the actual assessed valuation today is over $40 billion. So you can see that right off the top, we have a higher assessed valuation rate than we estimated, which means there's going to be a lower tax rate. The higher the assessed valuation, the more value there is to put the levy against, therefore the levy can be less. If we look going forward, that rate can really compound on itself. So I just, for your benefit, looked at what would it mean to have an assessed valuation growth of 3.5% versus assessed valuation growth of 5.6% over the next 25 years. You can see it's an enormous difference in what that underlying tax rate, underlying assessed valuation will be as it continues to compound on itself. The second piece, as I mentioned, is the outstanding debt. So remember, what I said at the beginning was when we're putting together the bond issue to place on the ballot, we make some assumptions about the assessed valuation growth. We also make some assumptions about when that debt will be issued, and that's in conjunction with discussing it with the district administration and what their plans are going forward. Now, in fact, what happened with the 2016 bonds, the Measure I bonds, was even though there were plans in place to spend these monies quickly, and that was what we estimated with the blue line, after the bonds were passed, after additional analysis occurred, the district decided not to proceed with the project that it was projecting at the time, did not issue the bonds for 5 years, I believe it was, until the next project was to be put in place. That meant for that measure, there was actually no tax levy. The tax levy was zero for those 4 or 5 years, even though we had told taxpayers that we estimated that it would be roughly $50. So that rate was much less. Then you can see it jumped up in 2022, 2021, 2022, and now it is back to where we estimated it. It also has to do with the fact that the bonds are being paid off. And I wanted to show you all of the tax rates because it's not just this 2016, but you have tax rates from other authorizations, also from authorizations, the rest of the authorization for the 2016. So this chart shows what we estimate the tax rates to be. I'll talk about that 2024 rate in a minute. As the additional 2016 Series B is issued, And as you can see, it's falling off quickly, and that brings us back to the proposal to put another item on the ballot, and I'll talk about that at the end as well. Another thing that occurs is that you have the ability to refinance the bonds. And as you refinance the bonds, you're reducing the amount of debt. And so I had our staff go back and look to the year back to the year 2000. Since that time, the district has refinanced many of their bonds, and the overall savings to taxpayers has been over $57 million. And then there is actually another refinancing that we're talking with the staff about, the administration about now. We've looked at these numbers recently. These are about a month old. The savings are about $6.5 million. The costs are down to about $300,000. So this is something you might want to also consider, because it's going to reduce not only the amount of debt, but the tax rate as well. So you're trying to bring that debt down at the same time. And then finally, we turn to the county. And remember that I said it is the county that really is the entity that sets the tax rate. You don't have any control over the setting of that tax rate. We give them the information. Even though they have the information of the assessed valuation and the debt payments, each county in the state has wide discretionary latitude in how they set those rates. And in fact, there's really no statutory instructions that we can find. They're kind of on their own. They discuss it among themselves, but they often go in different directions on how they set those rates. And when I say how they set those rates, I mean what type of buffers they put in, what type of estimates they make, how much money they hold back. They have really wide latitude in doing that. There's tremendous variations among the counties. I will say that in the last 3 years, and I'm going to talk about it more in the next slide, there has been significant overassessments, we believe, for this within this county, and I'll show you this on the next slide. So in this slide, we went back to 2017. We compared the rate that the county assessed versus what we had calculated that actual rate to be. And you can see from 2017 to 2021, those were in sync as we independently calculated that. Then with the issuance of the first series of the 2016 bonds in 2022, they began to get out of kilter quite a bit. You can see that the difference between what we calculated and what the county actually levied is fairly significant. If you look on the next page, on a percentage basis, you can see that in those last 3 years, it started out with over 115% of what we thought they needed. Then it went up to 126%. Then it went up to 129%. At this point, we realized something is off. We probably should have caught it the year earlier, frankly, on that second year. But we went to talk to the county along with your assistant superintendent for business, and they recognized that. Your CBO is working with the county to reset that and get them back in the right place. And I think based on those conversations, we will be back to something where the calculated rate and the assessed rate begin to match up in the next tax year. For your benefit, I looked at the combination of the estimated tax rate, that's the tax rate that I described in the ballot, compared to what the county actually levied during those years. So in 1993, you can see measure that was in 1992. The gray is the rate that was in the ballot. The orange is the rate that was actually levied. So remember, we're using an average. They're using a number that's actual. Then in Measure S, we estimated that it would go up in total to $50. They were a little higher. Measure T, we estimated it would go up to around 70. They were a little lower. And then we had Measure E. Remember that Measure E came in at about the same time as the mortgage meltdown. So it was really all over the place in terms of what they were levying as they were trying to figure out what was happening with real estate. But on average, it was right on. And then we have the Measure I bonds. You can see, and I think this is interesting and worth noting, that even though the combined rate that we had estimated was up around $160, in fact, the actual rate that was being levied, because the bonds weren't issued for 4 or 5 years was actually way below what the estimate was. And now it has those lines have crossed at the end. And this table just shows the red is the rate is above above what it was, the green below. I'm going to turn to the election of 2024 briefly. You may recall it was about a year ago when we met with the board. We discussed the fact that the gray, your prior bonds, the tax rate for your prior bonds is falling significantly. That 2024 bond has to do with what we think is an inconsistent tax rate. But even if that falls, you would have the ability to extend the rate based on what we believe the correct rate to be, which will be in 2025, for $465 million, and that would not increase the current rate. Now, it's going to obviously not decrease the taxes, but it would not increase that rate. We surveyed that possibility. I've just pulled out 2 slides. We surveyed it in 2 ways. One, we asked half of the people that are voters, if they would approve a $685 million bond, and this would be a tax rate increase. It doesn't say anywhere in this language that it would hold it steady. That was only a 50% yes, with 11% leaning yes. And for those where we said there would be no increase in current tax rates at $465 million, it was 65% yes, 14% lean yes. The requirement to pass a bond is 55%. So, assuming the board wants to continue to explore the November 2024 ballot, I think there's been a lot that's happened. There's been a lot of change. I think it would be probably appropriate to go back into the field and survey voters again and see how they feel about the tax rate extension. We're prepared to do that, or if that's not the choice of the board, we can always just move forward on the timetable as we had originally planned. You can see we have 2 variations in here. One is doing additional survey research. One is not doing additional research. The important note is right in the middle, file the resolution with the Riverside County elections, which has to be done by August 9th of this year. So you have a fair amount of time to make the decision, a fair amount of time to go back into the field and interview voters again. And with that, I will close, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so I was just asking Superintendent Signoret about, the calendar and the board's direction, and how is it that we decide, continue to study, continue to put another survey out. And I was just kind of trying to understand the process. Did you all have any questions about this?
I do. Could you explain the difference if we go out for the $685 million or the $465 million? And is there a difference in the tax rate?
Yes.
And exactly what is that?
Going back to the slide 23, the $465 million would be structured so it did not increase current tax rates. That current tax rate we estimate to be below $120 per $100,000 of assessed valuation. If we were to do a larger issue, the 685, I believe it was 685, that would require the tax rates to actually go far above by about a third, above the $110, $120 rate that you see on this slide. So it's really about being able to tell taxpayers this is not going to increase your current taxes versus this is going to increase your current taxes. Do you want more money? But you're going to have to pay more if you do.
But, I see that, but your taxes are going to be increased because if we take the money out, we have to pay money. Our taxes are going to go up to pay back that money.
Correct.
So
They
if
are-
they're at, say, $500 now, and we borrow more money, even if they stay at $120 assessed value, if we borrow that money, we have to pay back that money at $120 per 100,000 assessment. So your taxes would go up.
Your taxes would not go up from what it was in the previous year. However, they wouldn't go down. So if I can have you look at this slide again, if you did nothing, if you didn't get on the ballot with a new issue, the tax rate would be the gray in this illustration, and so it would begin to fall over time from the rate it is at now. So that would be actually a tax that's going down, but that means you wouldn't receive any additional funds. If you voted to get on the ballot, and if the voters approved the measure, then it would be structured so that the rate they are paying now would fit in with the rates that are falling, so that the rate that they are currently paying stays level.
But if we're borrowing the money and if we use the money, your taxes are going to go up to pay back that money, correct?
Your taxes are going to go up to the rate that they were to keep it at the rate that was in the previous year, yes.
Sorry, I think that, so the orange kind of describes the pathway of if we were to sell these new bonds by 2026, then it would be structured in such a way where we would be somewhere around that $115 to $120 amount, at least for a few years until 2033 or so. And then it would begin to fall in somewhat of a proportional way that the gray fell or would have fallen if we hadn't taken any money out. So I think, yes, it will be higher than what they would have paid under the gray, but the idea is it's not higher than the current tax rate that's now. If we went out for the additional amount, then we would have to we would have to charge more per 100,000, whether it be $30 or $60 per 100,000, to be able to pay for the additional 300 and some thousand more that it would be. So
Okay, it's that, I get it's the tax rate may stay the same, but the amount of money that appears on your taxes is going to go up because we have to pay back this money. I mean, the tax rate is going to stay at 120 per 100,000.
well, at least until 2033 or so, then it begins to drop, and that's all still per 100,000. Then it begins to drop to what, $90 around that time, and then $60 and so forth. So, because and not only that, but the S&T series, bonds would have begun to fall off at that time too. So then you're only paying on Measure E and Measure I,
Okay.
and then this new one. So
when does E and I, when do they, maybe I missed that part, when do they get paid off?
I think you had another slide on that.
Yeah, you did.
There you go. E and I, if we go back quite a ways, I think, there you can see here that the measures in gray begin to get paid off in 2033, 2034, 2035, and there would still be some from Measure I, which is the orange.
So on this chart is the gray S, T, and E.
Yes,
Then the orange is
I.
I. And then the light orange would be then a new assessment.
The light orange is the final issuance of Measure I.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Both series. So both in orange.
So say that again, the gray is what?
The gray is S, T, and E, and the orange and light orange is, the dark orange is Series A of Measure I, and then Series B, which hasn't been sold yet. You've given us authorization to sell, but we haven't sold it yet. The light orange is Series B, the rest of the money from Measure I.
Okay. But there's no guarantee what the actual county will really assess us at. We may say it's not going to stay the same, but they could say, forget that, and they could go back to 140 if they wanted
So
to.
they can't go higher than what was promised to the voters. They can't go higher than the $30 or $60 or whatever the maximum was for that particular bond rate. But in talking with the county, they have a very high reserve on this, and the way they calculate their reserve is in a constant loop. So they didn't take necessarily, like he said earlier, that the tax rates, when the assessed values went up, the tax rate should have actually gone down. But because of the way they do their mathematical loop in the reserves and constantly adding the full amount of the reserves back into the amount that they're going to collect, it constantly increases that reserve and that reserve percentage by more than what we feel it should be. And the county did say that we can help assess those reserves based on what we think is going to happen with that. And that's the plan for this next tax rate. Is I'm going to work with them in getting those reserves down to a sufficient amount, because what they had told us was that they try to build up enough in reserves to essentially pay for the next 18 months of principal and interest that would be owed. In other words, they're collecting a year and a half's worth of payments, thinking that nobody's going to pay any taxes for that year and a half. It's kind of an odd situation. And the way I discovered their math loop and talking to them, they're agreeable to help us set the reserves to that, and they say that other districts do that as well. So it's not unheard of to do that. Even though they set the tax rate, it's ultimately up to the Board of Supervisors, though. I can say, no, we're going to set all the reserves down to 40% or whatever it might be and recalculate that. But according to their people, like if we lower it more than a 10% amount, it really puts up a red flag to the Board of Supervisors. And right now they're so high that we probably will be trying to lower it more than 10%, of their reserves right now, which will, set that red flag. But I think the County of Supervisors will still look at it and go, okay, we have, I think it was $87 million in reserves for these accounts. We'll be okay. Yeah.
Is that what we have? Is that what they have in reserve for our
Yes, I
bond?
believe it was either 82 or 87, but I'm pretty sure it was 87.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So my recommendation would be for us to go out and do a survey, since we do have time. Make sure that we're going to get the votes and the support from the community.
About that, how much, what is the cost to have the survey when estimating?
That's an excellent question.
Like
Mr. Scott, what is that cost?
It's roughly $15,000.
The other question, and since you explained to us before about this, the recommended time to do this kind of decision is better in the presidential election?
Correct.
If we decide to don't do in case this time, that means that we have to wait probably 4 years.
Well, there are other elections that are in between now and
That makes
24
sense.
and 28. But I don't think there's any, statistically, if we look back at the last 20 years, the most successful period of time to put a school bond on the election is a presidential election. Other districts do it in other times. It's just that the passage rate is lower, and why take that chance? So I think in your situation, shooting for the presidential election not only will lower the cost of the election to you, but it'll also increase the probability of winning.
My question is, the survey, $15,000, what type of sampling is that? And that is across our district boundaries, of course?
I'm sorry, what was the last part?
What is the sampling number,
Oh.
approximately?
Right. Well, first of all, excuse me, the only people that are sampled are registered voters. It's not a sample of parents or a sample of the community. It's registered voters. The first question is, do you plan on voting in the presidential election? And if they say no, then they're thanked and they're left. So you want to have just voters. The attempt is to shoot for at least 300 completed samples. That's a statistical number that gives you roughly a margin of error of 4 or 5%. And that's fairly standard within the industry. And then within this district, I'm fairly confident we'll receive gather the entire 300.
And if we look at the voters in our boundary area, approximately how many voters do we have total? Do you know?
I did. I'm going to use memory, though. I believe you have well over 50,000 voters, but that could be a bad memory. It's not below that.
I thought it was 99,000. Am I way off, maybe? But
No,
No?
no, it's a very large district, but
It's a
I'm
very
sorry, I
large
don't have the number. with me.
99,000, and we surveyed 300.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to the pollsters of the state of California, they'll survey 900. Presidential election, they'll survey a couple thousand. So that is fairly standard in the survey industry. You're trying to get, now I will say, these are not just random people. They're making sure that the sample reflects the makeup of the district. So it's based on age, based on gender, based on political affiliation, et cetera, et cetera. So they're sampling a lot of people and then declaring and then designing that so it reflects evenly in a weighted sense what the makeup of the district's voters are.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Is there anything else we should know? in
No,
closing?
not at this time. I mean, unless the board feels strongly against a survey, and I'm sure you'll be able to let Dr. Signoret or I know. That's what I would suggest to go back out, because the sampling we did was quite a while ago, and it'll be after this particular election will also be after we are able to reset those tax rates, and the citizens will be able to see something closer to what they were expecting in the first place, or that the estimates were coming out in the first place. So
When was the last sampling done? 2020?
Last sampling was done roughly a year ago.
A year ago. Could we get those results sent to us again?
they're in here,
Oh, they're in here? Okay.
and they were in a couple of the slides were in the presentation. The rest of them were on the study session, but we can get them again to you on the full, because there was more questions, and I think you had a breakdown of each of the questions on the study session.
Yeah,
one, right?
it's roughly a 30-page
And
report.
and yes, sorry, and to go to a new survey, that had to be approved in meetings like this.
No, not necessarily. We would set a committee to kind of decide on the questions that we want to go and sample, and maybe even some of those questions might be in comparison with some of the other bonds that might be out there for on the ballot as well. So we can set the questions, but there's not going to be too many questions. But we'll set up a committee with Dale Scott and kind of they'll have some recommended standard questions, and then we can look at those standard questions and see which ones we like, and then add to it, based on our particular circumstances. So. I think that because there's not necessarily an action item, I'm inclined to go out for the survey and start working on the committee to get the questions going and whatnot as to what we're going to survey, because I think it said we start that in April, unless there's particular objections from the board, and then we'll kind of halt that and maybe make it an action item at that point. So for the next meeting. Yeah, so that's my recommendation and direction, is that we go out for the survey.
Yeah.
Yes.
Confusion. We want to go out and get, really the goal here is to be able to provide the board more information and fresh information
Right.
prior to you actually taking action on whether or not we move forward on the bond.
There'll be
So
plenty of
that's-
action to take, but
Yeah, so,
as far as the survey goes,
Whether we object for you going in.
correct. That's right.
We won't do a roll call, we'll just say, are you interested?
Well, I think it's just sufficient that,
Yeah, I think
unless-
we're good.
I think we're just going to take that, we're just going to move forward with doing that survey, and I think we'll be good. Okay? I'm sorry, you hear me okay? Oh, sorry, couldn't hear. Need to turn on.
There we go. So sorry. So it looks like the board is interested in going out for the survey. And that's the direction, is that correct? All right, we'll get some nods. Thank you. Thank you,
you.
Mr. Scott.
They froze my screen.
Okay, next in our agenda, we come to public comments, and this is item 10. And Clerk Cornett, have we received any email comments?
We have not.
Thank you. Okay, so tonight we have in-person comments, and all of the comments are to be directed to us, the board, and be under 3 minutes and shall be devoid of any personal attacks. Members of the public are expected to maintain a professional, courteous decorum during public comments. And just a reminder, board members do not respond to public comments. So we have a member of the public who would like to address the Board of Education. And may I have Ms. Sabrina Eanes come to the podium? And Ms. Sabrina,
Hello.
Ms. Cornett will be timing you, okay?
Okay, thank you for taking the time to hear today. This is my second time coming to the board regarding this issue today. I'm seeking an appropriate resolution. My son's a special needs preschooler who was bullied by a health parent in his classroom. During this time, my son developed severe anxiety. He was afraid to leave our home, did not want to attend school, and had constant nightmares. Another mom witnessed the staff member in question in the restroom mocking my son's stims, he is autistic, rushing him along and being overall disrespectful. Let me remind you, this is a special needs preschool student we are talking about here, our most vulnerable group. I immediately filed a complaint with the ECE department, and after months of waiting, was told the allegations were unfounded. In what world can abuse be witnessed by another adult and still be not enough to take action? The staff member in question was never even removed from working with students during this investigation. As a matter of fact, the district was going to allow her right back into my son's classroom the very next day following my complaint. I've been told by district personnel the staff member in question has protections because she's part of the union. I'd like to know who was there to protect my son when he was being psychologically abused day in and day out in his classroom. To be clear, not one district employee has asked me how my son is doing following this trauma. As soon as the staff member was removed from my child's life, we began to see an immediate positive change. He was even able to be potty trained. Unfortunately, he's still not back to being the happy, trusting child he once was. His trust and self-esteem were badly damaged with no repercussions. I believe PSUSD has an obligation to keep our children safe. In this instance, the district has failed not only my child, but all of the children.
Okay, do we have any other speaker cards that have not been brought up or presented? Okay, thank you so much. We'll move on to number 11, our board member comments. And we'll have Board Member Espericueta start.
I think first I want to say to the parents, thank you for your comments. Thank you. We take serious your comment and feedback. Thank you. And I want to start with the one event I attended in the March 16. Was a Cathedral City second annual Coachella Ballet Folklorico Festival. In that festival was performed ballet folklorico from Cathedral City High School, Palm Springs High School, and Desert Hot Spring High School, Bella Vista Elementary, Della Lindsay Elementary, and Two Bunch Palms Elementary School. One more time, this was a very successful event that I see that required a long planning. Also, they had good community support, benefiting the many students in different manners. Thank you to all participants. Thank you, parents, staff, community members for supporting these programs and events. Also, in March, in the same day, in 16, I'm attending to Rancho Mirage High School the spring musical curtain, with Board President Madonna Gurel and Assistant Superintendent Business Services Jeff Simmons was there, and was also a great student performance. In the March 19, and was my turn to give the stay at the district to Cathedral City Evening Rotary with Superintendent Signoret and Communication Director Joan Boyko, and Matt Howitt, Cathedral City High School Band Director. Like many other organizations, the question coming from members of the Rotary Club giving good feedbacks to the school district. Also, in that day, they show a lot of support to the students. For example, they give one donation to the Cathedral City Band. There was a $10,000? Yes. $10,000. Also, in the March 19th, I stopped in the Palm Springs High School Athletic Hall of Fame. It was a good event. It's traditional for the high school to recognize many previous students or the parents of the student that have good impact in the more in the sports in the Palm Springs High School. And in March 21st, I attended the principal of the day luncheon. It was a good opportunity for me to listen to the experience that each participant had, recognizing the great work that the school principal do, and the commitments are residing with different roles in their community, expressing their support for the student at the Palm Springs School District. And also in March 23, I attended the Cathedral City High School HOSA that is connected to the Hill Academy. And I asked the teacher at charge, and he said they have 202 Hill students, 186 registered in the HOSA organization, and 45 participants at the state that are ready to compete in the state level. That one will be in Anaheim this year. They compete in the state level, and then if they had good results, they pass to the national level competition. The topic that they covered in that presentation was danger and fentanyl, stress, and technology addiction. That was practice for them, because this topic is the one that they had planned to present in the state level competition. And that is it for me. I want to wish everyone to have a safe and worthy for spring break. Thank you.
Okay. And so I as well attended quite a few events with all of the other board members. On the 13th and the 14th, I attended a CAA ASA conference in San Diego. It happened to be the 70th year of Brown versus Board of Education. That was an amazing conference that I went to. A lot of communication that was available with our Black and Brown students, with trying to figure out how we can bridge the academic gap that has seemed like it has gotten wider, if not as wide as it was in 70 years ago. One of the speakers talked about something that I thought was pretty interesting and kind of amazing. It was speaking along the lines of how to get parent and family engagement, and what questions to ask and how to talk to students. And one of them was, she had a question that she asked, and it was, what is it about you that you want people to know about you? And so it made all of us think about our high school experiences and our experiences in school, and that's a very interesting question. And we all just sat there for a minute, and we didn't know what we wanted to tell someone about us. when we were children. And so that was something that I thought was very interesting and something that kind of started dialogue for us to all meet people where they are and kind of meet our students where they are. And then next on the 19th, I went to the Athletic Hall of Fame as well from Palm Springs High School. That is one of my schools that I graduated from high school. And I was pretty excited. Mr. Hollinger, who was my not volleyball, but he coached volleyball when I was there at Palm Springs High School. And he happened to pass away on the hike there in Palm Springs. And so he was honored. Another gentleman who showed a lot of us as African-American students how to conduct ourselves and how to be a man and took us fishing, showed us how to play sports, was just a father and a mentor to a lot of African-American students, and that's James O. Jesse. He was also honored at Palm Springs High School for the Hall of Fame, and it was well-deserved, and I think it was great that he finally got acknowledged. And he lost his life saving one of the young men that he took on a fishing trip. And so next on the 19th as well, I went to Sunny Sands. They had a TK and kindergarten exercise. They worked Tony. So me and Tony did this exercise where we were jazzercising, and that was hard. It was really hard to do that and keep up with the teacher. She was amazing, and I believe her name was Miss Smith. And I want to tell Miss Smith, next time I won't be participating, I'll be watching, because I was a little sore after that exercising. But thank you to Miss Horton and her staff. You guys did a wonderful job. And I hope you guys seen the picture online. And on the 21st, I did principal for the day at Vista Del Monte Elementary, which given me a very great appreciation of what principals do in a day. And, all the hard works and things that they do. It's really tough dealing with children, especially through K through 5. They say the darndest thing. I talked at the luncheon about the experience I had with the child. We were going into the lunchroom, and as we were going inside of the lunchroom on the line, he said, "Hey, Mister, I know you. You were on the news." And I said, "Oh, thank you, man. I was on the news." I said, "How did I look?" And he says, "You're a lot uglier in person." and so, me and him laughed, and I told him, "Really, you gonna tell me that to my face?" And he started laughing, and we just laughed and joked, and we walked in the line. He was really just trying to poke me. I could tell he wasn't serious, but kids say some of the most darndest things, and you gotta love them. And so that was one of my experiences. And also on the 15th, I missed it. I went to the district track meet. The guy who was calling, I think his name was Richard. Ricardo. He does such an amazing job. It was so exciting. You can hear him from the parking lot, down the street. He was yelling and screaming out the names, and all of those parents were there. You couldn't even get a seat, anything. It was standing. They were all lined up around the gate, all in the bleachers, and everywhere that you possibly could imagine. It was just parents everywhere. And I just want to say thank you to the people who put on that track event, and to the parents. We need you at some of our parent engagement meetings and things like that. I know athletes and sports is something that's great, but academics as well is something that's very important, and we would love to see you guys to show as much support to academics as you guys show to athletics. And that concludes my report.
Well, it has been a busy month, and I want to say thank you to Ed Services for the wonderful presentation that you did tonight. I really appreciate finding out what's going on academically with our students, and then all of the interventions that are taking place also. I also was able to go to the Ballet Folklorico Festival at Cathedral City High School. It was really a great event. It was all of our schools from all over the district participating, so they've done it before, and I hope they continue to do that. And then I went to a special thing for the MTUs, put on the Secret Garden performance at the Palm Springs Art Museum, and it was such a unique event. They did the play throughout the museum, and they had the different scenes in different parts of the museum. So it was really cool. So that was a nice thing to do. Tomorrow I plan to attend the Palm Springs Women's Club Scholarship Luncheon, and they're going to honor our superintendent, Dr. Signoret. Congratulations. Also, I would like to just say have a wonderful, restful spring break to everybody. Hopefully some of you get to get away for a little bit and relax. And that's it.
All right. So I was with many of our board members together on many events, and so I'm not going to backtrack. I'm just going to talk a little bit differently about some special events that I had a chance to go to. I was with board member Irvin in San Diego, and we were at the California Administrators, African American Administrators event, and I want to encourage the entire board to go, and cabinet, and anyone, teachers, teams, to go to this wonderful conference in San Diego. And the two things that I took away from the conference include, instead of calling mental health, we call it mental awareness. And instead of awareness, we call it mental wellness. And then the other idea would be that we are leaders who are warm demanders in schools that are at work. And so having the idea of being a warm demander is sometimes a challenge because the accountability we have for people and in schools for kids is sometimes, it's hard on people. So those were two really important pieces from that. I did have a chance to take board member Irvin to have Lebanese food. That's my national heritage, so we went to a great Lebanese restaurant in El Cajon, and so that was really fun. One of Alibaba, he even remembers. Yes, it was really fun. We'll have to take more of the team next year to have some great Mediterranean food. Also, adding on to all the wonderful events, I think I went to 4 plays in 2 weeks. And so one play I was able to chaperone, and I was with Palm Springs High School, and we went to Costa Mesa to the Seastrom Center, and we saw Michael Jackson, the musical. And the opportunities for our kids that we don't even have an idea what our schools are going to is amazing. To hear the dance team screaming behind me about the choreography, it is just so exciting to not just watch, but to hear the kids' reactions. So we have very talented kids, and I want to be honest. We teach kids how to perform, but we also teach kids about how to be an audience. And I was so proud of our students and how they were dressed for the play, how they were poised, how excited and respectful they were in the auditorium or in that theater. It was a sold-out night, and I have to say that I was so excited that our kids are going to continue to go to musicals, and theaters across the state are inviting Palm Springs Unified kids to see their performances. So that's all for me. How about you?
All right, thank you, President Jarrell. Well, first I just want to highlight part of my report today. Well, first, actually, I know she left, but Mrs. Eanes, know how difficult this has been, and understand how difficult it was for her to show up and this is situation with her son. So we'll continue to work with her and the family and follow up on those concerns. But what I'd like to highlight today is the HBCU trip. This morning I left at 3:45 a.m. Eastern time to be here in Palm Springs at 1 o'clock. And thank you for the coffee, Monica, because that's really helped. I'm still here and I haven't fallen apart yet. But how absolutely amazing to be there and to be able to actually see the impact this has on our kids is priceless. We started off at also a very early flight leaving Palm Springs. And on that first travel day, but the next day we went to Pure Lagos, a black-owned store. Joseph, he's from Nigeria, the owner. He spoke to the kids about Kwame Alexander, and the author and artist Rufus Agundule, and great messages for the kids. And they were just absolutely enthralled with everything he had to say. Then we had a Q&A with the the Norfolk, Virginia mayor, first black mayor of Norfolk. His name is Kenny Alexander. How inspirational. Man is absolutely amazing. High expectations on professionalism was his message to the kids. Also, how to conduct themselves professionally. I thought it was amazing. He told the kids that, within his responsibilities in his city of Norfolk, they have Naval Station Norfolk, which is the largest naval complex in the world. And the NATO Joint Force Command, which is the American part of NATO, is in Norfolk, all within his city. My mouth dropped. The kids were kind of like, okay, that's cool. I don't think they really understood the impact of what they will at some point, but it was absolutely amazing. But for them to have a Q&A with him was absolutely amazing. And then the next day we were at Norfolk State, and what an impressive campus. We had a great tour by Dr. Banks. He's the STEM department chair, but also the athletic recruiter. And he also connected me with one of their college recruiters. They have a brand new one, just started in January. She's willing to come out here to directly recruit our kids. So we're going to establish that relationship. And also I met up with the head of the career department, still had my HR hat on, so we're going to get some teachers out of there too. And we're going to get, and so we have that connection as well from that. So took advantage of that opportunity as well. So just fostering those good relationships. But I just want to say, I know we do many outstanding things in Palm Springs Unified, but this definitely ranks towards the top. And I really can't say enough about it. And I'm extremely excited next week to go a few days for the HSI trip, because I think that that's going to be equally as valuable. So looking forward to that. But I do, excuse me, one second. I want to give a big recognition to our HBCU chaperones. They are so well organized and efficient. I was just really amazed. So Nicole Crawford, Jarvis William, Jarvis Crawford, Camille Mamadou, they are just spectacular, doing a great job with the team. So kudos to all of them. I know they'll be online tomorrow talking to APAC and sharing their experiences. So I don't want to be redundant on many things that the board has already shared, and so I won't go at length, but I do want to give recognition to Principal of the Day, Joan, Monica, Erica. You did a phenomenal job in putting that together. Thank you so much. You were absolutely spectacular. And our kids from the cafe, Rancho Mirage, what a spectacular job. Elementary track meet as well. The PE staff, students, what a great job. And yeah, Ricardo didn't even need a microphone. I mean, he's got a voice that you can hear everywhere. Also, kudos to David Green and the students. What a great job with MTU and the Secret Garden. That was phenomenal. Also, kudos to Palm Springs High team for the Athletic Hall of Fame. What a great event. And kudos to all those that were recognized. And also, thank you to the Sunny Sands TK Jazzercise. I was icing my knees for a few days after that one. They did put me through a workout, that's for sure. Moving forward, coming up this Saturday, I'll be doing double duty. We do have the Negro Academic Scholarship Fund on Saturday, and that's going to be a wonderful event. I'll be at that part of the time, and then going to the Steve Chase Awards. Terry Kedover, who you probably recognize that name, who's been a big supporter of our kids through Do the Right Thing, is being recognized. So I want to be supportive of her at that particular event. Also coming up Saturday, April 13th, is the RFEP reclassification ceremony. Elementary at 9:30 a.m., secondary at 1:30 p.m. I know that Robin Hinchliff has been doing a great job with the program overall, so look forward to being at that event. And then also, let's not forget the Kiwanis Baseball Camp at Cathedral City High School, the great event for kids to show up. So that's also on April 13th, so please be there. All right, thank you. That concludes my report.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to board action items. 13A, the approval of monitoring report governing policy OE2, emergency superintendent succession plan. It is OE2. Can I get a motion to approve 13A?
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions? Are you,
Don't you want to talk
are you
about it?
moving?
Yes, so as the board is aware, this succession plan really outlines an event that I am not to be able to, or the superintendent is not be able to be present. This update really is simply taking off the interim titles of the most recent one and just updating it in that regard.
Okay, can I get a motion? Oh, we did, I'm sorry. Then, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye, thank you. Next, 13B, approval of variable term waiver, 30 days substitute California Basic Skills requirement for 2024 to 2025 school year, OE 4.12. Can I get a motion to approve 13B?
I move the motion.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, are there any questions? The waiver, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passed. Next, 13C, amendment number 1 to Palm Springs Unified School District Agreement IN 000196, Commission on Teacher Credentialing, grant number 2021 TRI 10, to increase the grant amount for the Teacher Residency Implementation and Expansion Grant Program, which is OE 5.2. Can I get a motion to approve 13C?
Move for approval.
Second.
All right. Are there any questions? Oh, I do. Can we find out how much is the grant and how much will be improved or cost? Do you know? Clayton? Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, President. It's actually an amendment or an increase or rewrite of a grant that was already received. The resident teachers are receiving $30,000 as a stipend to participate in the program, the residency program. And then in October, we were able to rewrite because there were more monies available. So we did that, increasing the stipend that those residents received to $40,000. So it's just an increase receiving of grant funds for those resident teachers.
And we're increasing that program next year, right? Or
We're continuing the program,
Continuing.
correct, in our partnership with Alder.
with Alder? Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, number 13D, award of leaseback contract to Education Code 17406 to West Coast Air Conditioning Company Incorporated for Cathedral City High School Modernization Project, OE 12.1. Can I get a motion to approve 13D?
Move for approval.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. Are there any questions, comments? Anything? We're looking at you, Jeff.
Do you have any questions?
I-
So this
I
is
don't.
something that Julie addressed last meeting in the facilities, that this particular portion was broken up into two parts. The first one of which you voted on the last meeting, which was the use of ESSER funds. And then the second part of this bid is other funds other than ESSER. It'll start to dip into our bond funds for the second piece of it. And then there'll be further discussion come November or December somewhere, or the study session in order to discuss what we want to do with the rest of the money and the projects we still have at Cathedral City High School. So
Is the work being done right now?
for the ESSER piece of it,
The
right?
ESSER piece is being done right now? It's starting? Yes. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, 13E, approval of compromise and release agreement number 2324-06 between parents and District dated March 4th, 2024, OE-6.1. Can I get a motion to approve 13E?
I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions? None. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passed. Next, approval of expulsion case 2023-2024-027, recommendation and findings of fact and conclusion of law, OE11. Can I get a motion to approve 13F?
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay. Are there any? No, there's no comments. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Next, with one vote, we'll look at 14A, approval of acceptance of gifts. 14B, approval of purchase order report. Approval of agreements under $10,000. Approval of agreements $10,000 or more. Approval of memorandums of understanding. Approval of disposal of surplus property report. G would be approval of certificated and classified employee transactions. And then 14H would also be approve the new job description, CTE, Information and Communication Technologies, ICT teacher. So with that, can I get a motion
Move for approval.
and a second?
Second.
Okay, and I just want to thank the Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla Indians for the gift of $1,142 donation to Raymond Cree, for field trips, that the $1,000 donation to Rio Vista, the Blackbaud Giving Fund, Your Cause Grant, $100 donation to Sunny Sands Elementary School Library, Alpha Delta Kappa, and then a $100 donation to Raymond Cree School Library, Alpha Delta Kappa.
I just have a question on 14B.
Mhm.
I noticed in going through that we're replacing 5 vehicles and buying them from Jessup Auto. If we could just have a little more information of what those vehicles are being used for.
I will find out more details, but I believe they're all maintenance and operations vehicles.
That's what I figured, but I
Yes.
just, because there's 5 of them, so that's, and I would assume they're in line with our sustainability.
Yes. Yeah, but we can follow up with more
Okay,
on
thank you.
Friday.
He thought they were for maintenance, he's going to follow through.
I'm sorry, I might have gone a little fast. Was there anything else that you wanted to discuss in 14A through 14H or ask questions? Go ahead.
I did have a question too. There's another thing about expanded learning, the spring camps and the field trip for a little over $300,000. I probably should have.
Yes.
I probably should have texted you and asked you where they were going for $300,000.
I'll look at the purchase order and provide
Okay.
more information in the
Yeah.
Friday, but that's for next week with our
That's
camps
what I figured.
for
but
days,
I
and
know-
they're going everywhere under the sun.
I know,
Yes,
and
they're
I
going
think-
back to the farm. There's going to be some simulation. Mr. Arnold, okay. We'll put it in the Friday. We'll have the details because we have a flyer of everywhere that they're going.
I'm just interested because I know they do so many wonderful things and provide all these opportunities for our kids outside of the valley. So I just figured it was quite a lot of money and they must be going some really interesting places.
They are.
Great.
I know. Mr. Arnold's trying to pull up the flyer.
Are you okay if we
Oh,
provide
yeah,
that
I'm
later?
fine with
okay.
it. I just was
Oh,
interested where they were going. Yeah.
Gotcha. We'll make sure you have that for the
Okay,
Friday
thanks.
as well.
Joan has something?
Oh, gee.
Joan?
Mhm.
Kidchella at the Aziz Farm. All right.
Yes, it does, Joan. Thank you very much.
All right.
We'll still include it in the Friday because there are other events as well.
Perfect. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Okay, we look at item 15, the approval of meeting minutes for March 12th, 2024. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
Move for approval.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the motion passed. Next, 16 is an information item, early Head Start and Head Start reports per requirements for the Head Start Act for August 2023. And the board has received and reviewed that information. Next, number 17, suggestions for future agendas. Is there any input at this time? Okay, none at this time. Okay, if we look ahead, the setting for our next board meeting is Tuesday, April 9th, 2024 at 6 o'clock p.m. Do we have any other comments, closing comments, or debrief? Go ahead.
And saying one quick comment I forget to share in my report. In the same day when I went to the Palm Spring High School Hall of the Fame, I was looking for the play because it's a little bit all the time. I don't know the whole school very well, and I was looking for the place, the gym, and one student, I asked one group of students that they was doing something in the afternoon, and I asked, where is the event, the Hall of the Fame? They said, yeah, I know, it's in the gym. I know who you are. He said, you are a board member. Let me take you to and they escort me there, and that was good detail for me in the way that in the first impression that I have, they are very polite students, and also it is good that they recognize me. That means that they put attention who is the people taking care of them, a superintendent, a teacher, even board members, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Just quickly, I said a lot, and I think I forgot to say the HBCU college tour. I believe the Zoom is going to be available for the students. Will be talking about their experience, and if you get an opportunity, it's something that you really should listen to and hear our students talk about their experience and see that this trip is making a huge effect on the children. And I think that's going to be from 6 to 7. So if you guys get the opportunity, check out the APAC page. It should have a flyer there that's available to show you the time and also the Zoom link.
I just want to thank everyone that was here tonight presenting, all of our staff, all of our cabinet, our superintendent. Thank goodness you made it back. We didn't know who your successor would be.
That was by design.
But maybe she's next to you. And I just want to say Feliz Noche. Thank you, everyone, for coming to our meeting. Have a good break.
We need to adjourn.
The meeting is adjourned. May I get a may I get a motion to adjourn?
I move.
All right. And a second?
So,
Let's all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Good night.